As we move past the halfway point of 2024, it's worth examining the latest status of the Salesforce job market. If you've been keeping up to date with the recent news, you'll have a pretty good idea of what the landscape looks like already. If you haven't, you'll quickly begin to fill in the gaps. With further layoffs, fluctuating stock prices, saturation, and the drop-off of AI hype, it's evident that the job market hasn't bounced back to its mighty peak of 2022. At the time of recording this, the US stock market has had yet more bad news, with recession fears mounting. There isn't just one reason for this either, but there might be something behind the curtain that many of us might have missed: offshoring. And just before we get into the video, a massive thank you to Sasha Semyonova for the post that inspired this video. What is offshoring? Offshoring refers to the practice of relocating production or services to overseas locations. It's a common practice in the manufacturing and textile industries and provides benefits such as wider access to skilled labour, wider reach into overseas markets, and reduced labour costs. This practice has become increasingly popular for numerous tech companies over the years, with some of the most successful examples including WhatsApp, IBM, Amazon, and even Google. So it comes as no surprise that the Salesforce ecosystem has bought into this as well. It must be noted, however, that offshoring does come with its risks and cons. For example, obstacles like quality control issues, time zone differences, and security and intellectual property issues are definitely things to consider. Although the practice is common, a lot of work is needed to get it right. You might have heard of offshoring before, and if you have, you know that it's sometimes used interchangeably with nearshoring and outsourcing. Offshoring is often used in the same discussions as outsourcing, and although the two are similar, they do have their own distinct characteristics. Whilst offshoring specifically refers to utilising labour overseas, outsourcing just refers to using an outside or third-party supplier. Another common practice within the same realm is nearshoring, which refers to a company outsourcing its business processes or services to a location nearby, normally in the pursuit of cheaper labour. Some examples include nearshoring from Eastern Europe to Western Europe and South America to North America. Offshoring and nearshoring will be the two key focuses of this particular video. Before we delve any deeper, it's important to assess and understand the current state of the job market. Since 2023, when we released our post, "Is the Salesforce job market saturated?", the job market has seen its fair share of tumult. In July, Salesforce laid off a further 300 employees, bumping up the yearly total to 1,000. If you scroll LinkedIn for long enough, browse through the R Salesforce subreddit, or spend time observing the latest trends, you'll see that the consensus remains that the job market is still very much saturated. Combined with the juxtaposed influx of certified entry-level professionals alongside concerns that the platform is finally becoming too complicated, it's clear that there is a level of uncertainty and confusion in the market as a whole. In order for us to understand the intricacies of offshoring and outsourcing within the ecosystem, it's crucial to look at where the Salesforce jobs actually are versus who is competing for them. This is how we can assess job availability. According to LinkedIn, the US Salesforce talent pool is made up of 360,000 plus people being classed as active talent. These figures, however, provide a wide-angle view of the hiring situation, taking into account users that list Salesforce as a skill or work with Salesforce in any kind of capacity, such as sales or customer support profiles. We'll examine this a lot closer in just a second. Now compare it to the available jobs. At the end of July, LinkedIn advertised just 1,915 jobs in the following categories: Salesforce admin, Salesforce developer, Salesforce consultant, Salesforce business analyst, and Salesforce architect. If we break down the larger figure from earlier, the number of Salesforce professionals open to work in the US within these categories sits around 38,500. For the purposes of this video, the figure provides a more accurate and precise look at the active hiring situation. In order to examine the evident disparity between supply and demand, without considering aspects like duplicate job postings and alternative titles, we can observe that there are roughly 20 potential applicants per Salesforce job in the US for these categories. In the UK, the results reflect a similar pattern. According to LinkedIn, there are over 9,500 people open to work for these roles, compared to just 188 jobs in the same categories. This means there are 50 potential applicants per job available. Germany's market once again demonstrates a mirrored situation, with 6,300 plus professionals classed as open to work in these categories and 162 open positions on LinkedIn, 38 potential applicants per job. It's important to establish that we are just looking at a select segment of jobs and applicants within the Salesforce ecosystem, and that findings are likely to differ within role categories. Our findings, however, paint a picture of the disparity between jobs and applicants in some of the most sought-after roles. It's no secret that factors like tumultuous economic conditions, tightening of budgets, and saturation are affecting the Salesforce job market. But one social economic factor that we might not have considered as heavily is offshoring. According to Forbes, the average IT department allocates 13.6% of its budget to offshored roles, and roughly 37% of its IT tasks are outsourced. This is just for IT departments. Looking at it from a larger perspective, according to a report by Growth Market Reports, the IT services outsourcing market was valued at $525 billion in 2022 and is reportedly likely to reach $1.6 trillion by 2031. This is not without reasons either. One of the biggest benefits of offshoring is definitely the cost reduction. In fact, working with offshore developers can reduce development costs by up to 90%. It's unclear just how widespread offshoring is specifically in the Salesforce ecosystem, but it's a trend that definitely can't be ignored. Alexander Trisner, a growth marketing manager at Magic Fuse by TechMagic, says that the company has noticed offshoring becoming more popular for a number of reasons, including cost savings, scalability, and providing access to a global talent pool. As I mentioned earlier, offshoring has its pros and cons. For employers, these pros include cost savings. Arguably, the main benefit of offshoring is the cost savings due to lower labour costs. Wages are often considerably lower in most popular offshore regions, which is beneficial for businesses thinking about their profit margins. Larger talent pool. With offshoring, companies are exposed to a much larger talent pool than what they would be limited to in their home operating countries. This allows them to be selective about who they hire, even more selective than they can already be due thanks to a saturated market. Enhanced business processes and scalability. The benefit of offshoring in the Salesforce ecosystem specifically comes through its cloud-based system capabilities. This helps to ensure that scalability can be closely monitored and maintained, uniting businesses' processes across multiple locations if need be. Now let's look at some cons. Culture, time zones, and language. As with any non-national operations, different cultures, time zones, and languages can affect anyone from the staff to the customers if not integrated seamlessly. Data security and compliance issues. Making sure the offshore team follows strict security measures and meets any legal standards relevant to your business can be much trickier overseas, and data security laws can differ between countries. Assessing technical expertise. Something that tech companies can run into with offshoring is the inability to properly assess technical expertise in their offshore teams. This is, however, less tricky in the Salesforce ecosystem, as credentials like certifications hold merit globally. For employees, both new and existing, the pros and cons look a bit different. Let's start with the pros. Increased job opportunities offshore. For offshore employees, more companies operating in your home country means more job opportunities, and, according to some studies, the potential for increased domestic wages too. If we take a look at some of the early findings of our first Salesforce salary survey, we can already begin to observe the financial effects. As a large proportion of outsourcing occurs in Asia across regions such as India and Pakistan, it's interesting that out of all the regions we focused on, 46% of participants from Asia perceived an increase in wages, compared to 40.3% of participants from Central America perceiving an increase. More leverage for onshore senior staff. Some predictions for the future of offshoring in the ecosystem involve big impacts on new entrants to the industry. We have already noticed that offshoring is an alternative staffing model to hiring entry-level staff locally. So if the lower risk, bigger margins mentality began to influence the hiring of more senior Salesforce professionals, it is likely to cause a disparity between onshore and offshore cost models. If more senior staff are hired on an offshore basis, this could possibly make some customers and clients wary if they're after the benefits that local workers offer, like shared culture, time zones, and availability. While this isn't great news for employers, it could allow local senior staff to leverage higher wages. Now let's look at some cons. Lack of onshore job opportunities. Unfortunately, one of the main cons of offshoring is that it potentially takes away job opportunities within onshore regions. As employers are enticed by lower cost alternatives, they might see it better fit to hire offshore rather than onshore. Offshoring isn't the be-all and end-all behind the Salesforce job saturation dilemma or the state of the job market. However, it is clearly something that is a focus of numerous companies within the ecosystem in some capacity. And although it has its benefits, there's no denying the impact it has on availability and accessibility of jobs. Although it is by no means a new trend, offshoring remains a practice that should be considered both in the present evaluations and future predictions of the job market. If you'd like to find out more, be sure to check out Sasha's post linked in the description below.